Well, hello there, my drumming friend. This is Drummer Daily, in case you were caught unawares by this. I'm so happy you joined me today. For me, there's some good and bad about today. The good is the sun is out. It's getting warm finally where I'm at. What else is good that's going on today? This podcast is on Spotify now. So if you're a Spotify user, you can just search for Drummer Daily on Spotify, and you can listen to me there as well. Throw me in your playlists or whatever you want to do. So I'm trying to be everywhere you could possibly imagine with this podcast, or anywhere that you'd want to have me with this podcast. So that's something that's exciting. I guess the only bad about today is that it's a 3 coffee day for me, which means I'm pretty tired. But there's just so much to do in the day. I've been getting up earlier and earlier trying to get it all done. And so I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee. So the downside is I'm tired enough to need a 3rd cup of coffee. The positive side is that I'm drinking a 3rd cup of coffee. So I guess it is okay. You get the good with the bad, right? But hey, one more good thing, and I can't really announce it yet because I promised some people that I would not. But the drumming intensive, so the either the in-studio experience or the online 2-month drumming intensive, those are pretty much ready to go as far as accepting applications go. But there are some of you who listen to this podcast who emailed me and said, hey, I'd be interested in learning more about this when it's ready. And so I've emailed all of you that have asked for that information to give you the first chance at it, like I promised you. And so I won't be announcing the details for anyone else for a couple of days. So I do appreciate everyone who was interested, and we'll see if we end up getting a chance to connect otherwise. But hey, today I got a question from one of you, and I thought this is a great question that I have a little bit of perspective on, and so here it is. This one comes from Andrew, and he writes, "And what are some good practice tips to help me transition from marching percussion to being that smooth gospel drummer? I have chops. I'm just trying to loosen up more on these odd time signatures like 7/8 and 9/8, etc." And this is something that I definitely have experience with. That's a great question, by the way, Andrew. Thanks for writing that in. This is something that I do have some experience with. I always liked to think of myself as someday I'd go do the DCI thing, the drum corps thing, and be in the drum corps. I never did fully pursue it. I think I was a little. I'm trying to decide. I was too social is not the right word, because everyone at DCI, they're great. I've met a lot of people who did it. It's not about being social. What I'm saying is I wasn't able to prioritize my desire to go to do DCI in the summer enough over wanting to hang out with my friends in the summer. So I wasn't ever able to bring myself to make that choice. And so I never pursued DCI. I honestly don't know if I was good enough or not. I don't know if I'd make it. That was part of it. I really wanted to know. It's kind of one of those things, honestly, like I would have loved to have gone and tried out just to see if I could make it. And then of course, if I made it, I'd be like, oh, great, I have to do it now. But I didn't want to get in that spot, so I never tried out. I don't know, maybe I was scared. Maybe I was worried that I'd found out that I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Anyway, all that to say, I played the marching band in high school. So my freshman year, I was in the pit. So I played a lot of mallet instruments, which is great. Learned a lot about piano and the notes, scales, chords, things like that. And then sophomore year, I played the bass drum. And then junior and senior year, I played snare drum. I loved playing snare drum. That was my goal all along. And I was so happy. That was a lot of fun. But I had that experience, and I think I naturally have an inclination for understanding marching, the rudiments and the patterns and how to keep things even and neat, which Andrew, you're writing in, it sounds like you were the same way. You have an ability to really do that, really almost, I always thought of my playing like when you're in the drum corps, drum line, you want to make it sound like a robot almost. You want it to be super precise. You don't want it to, quote, have any feel. You want it to be precise. You want those stick heights to be right. You want precision. You want machine-like evenness with everything you play. Which, if that's all you ever do and all you ever did, I could see how you would get. It'd be hard to break out of that if you got to the drum set and want to play something that's a little looser, a little more feel, a little more flow. The good thing is you have the advantage right now of probably being pretty darn good at playing with the click track, because playing with the metronome is a big part of, and maintaining steady tempo without a click track is a big part of obviously being in the drum line or doing drum corps type stuff. But when I was in high school, later in high school especially, right around the time that I started playing snare and really got into it, I also got really into Bela Fleck, the famous banjo player who he's, I don't know what the right word for him is. I guess he's kind of a jazz player. Style-wise, it's a little less like stylistically like jazz, but there are a lot of odd time signatures, a lot of strange accents, a lot of alternating time signatures, things like that. And that stuff, I could play it because, we played in marching percussion. We played some stuff with odd time signatures. I could play it kind of, but it wasn't until I heard Bela's drummer, Future Man, who plays this crazy thing, the drumitar. It was like a MIDI controller that looked like a guitar, but it played drums. Until I heard him on some interview or something, he talked about how he plays these odd time signatures, and it actually is what I ended up doing to play odd time signatures with more feel, and what I'm going to suggest you try. And that's this. He said, I actually never, for most of the songs, I don't know what time signature they're in, or when I first hear them and when I start playing them, I don't know what time signature they're in. I only, maybe later will figure that out when I just, out of my own curiosity, will go count and figure out what time signature they're in. He said that what he does, and this is what I've started doing, what I do too whenever I'm faced with an odd time signature, is I don't count. I don't listen. I don't try to count out how things are supposed to feel. I actually always, with music, and again, the idea is you're going to be playing with other musicians with this, or playing with other music, is I listen for melody lines, bass lines. It's what Future Man called pulses. You listen for the pulse of the music, and don't try to wrap your brain around it so much. Disengage your brain a little bit and just try to feel the pulse of the music. When I first started doing this, it was really hard to do, because what I would do is I would successfully be able to do what I'm talking about, which is just kind of stop thinking about it and just feel it, kind of internalize the pattern without counting out the numbers inside of a time signature. But what would happen is inevitably I would start thinking about it, and the counting would creep back in, and that's when I'd lose it, when I started thinking about it and counting it. And it's something you just got to practice. But that'd be my number one tip as far as adapting to odd time signatures and taking some of the math out of it, because that's the thing, is the math and the numbers that go into marching percussion a lot of times are really useful for playing really complex things and also playing them well and evenly. But sometimes, I always talk about playing with more feel and more precision, but for some of us with our backgrounds, like what you're talking about, you actually might want to choose to be a little less precise. It's all about the perspective and the context of what you're doing. So good on you, Andrew, also for being aware enough, knowing that you might want to be a little less precise and going down that path, but trying to do it in the right way. But try that. Try thinking about it less. Try stop counting, and see how that works out for you. And let me know how it works out for you. I'd love to, after you try it out, love to hear how it works out for you. And that goes for you as well, whoever you are listening to this podcast. Let me know how that works out if you're going to try something like that. In fact, if you try any of my advice on this podcast, I'd love for you to know how it works out. I'm just imagining, the reason I'm laughing is I just imagine that I'm going to get a lot of people saying, you have terrible advice, it doesn't work at all. So I guess I'll take that as well. But I hope it's not. But thank you for joining me today. I'm going to drink this cup of coffee because it's probably cooled off now. And I can't wait to talk to you again very soon here on Drummer Daily. Bye for now.